Former refugee from Afghanistan. I was born to the Hazara ethnic minority who have a long history of persecution and continue to be the prime target of the insurgents in Afghanistan. In fact, as we speak of the attacks in France, only 3 days before that, Hazara men, women and children were beheaded in the worst possible manner by the very same brand of terror. And similar atrocities had my father flee Afghanistan 15 years ago to arrive in Australia by boat. I find it really heartbreaking to realize that the attacks in France are actually translating to active demonization and opposition of refugees here at home and beyond. So my question is, why political mantras like close the border and tighten Australia's refugee policy are being advocated? How do we ensure that the focus is not actually shifted from finding real solutions, solid solutions to tackling global terrorism to that of victimization of a particular group of people who are vulnerable, desperate and running for their lives for the same acts of terror and threats?
I'll start with Nick Xenophon.
It's a terrific question. Taking 12,000 refugees from Syria is the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do. We're a big country with a big heart. There are 12 million displaced people, as Kate said. It highlights the need for a political solution. What we've been doing to date has not been working. We've actually seems to have strengthened ISIS and strengthened the terrorists. We need to have a different approach. I was reading today a 2004 Pentagon report, US Department of Defense, where they actually said that their approach in dealing with the threat of extremists has been, to date, back in 2004, counterproductive. They said it's had the opposite of the effect intended. I don't know what Andrew thinks about that as an expert, whether he thinks it still applies. But the issue is this, I think the definition of insanity, as Einstein said, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We need to do something different.
Yep. Christoph, can I bring you in? And I'll take you back to the previous question as well, which mentioned the passport, the Syrian passport that was found near the body of one of the suicide bombers, and which, of course, has begun a debate about the refugees coming into Europe. Flooding is going to get bigger in Europe by the sound of it.
Probably, but, it's always easy to caricature things and more difficult to analyze precisely what's happening. Since I arrived in this country, I've received a lot of advisors from senior ministers, I'm not talking about you, Christopher Pine, saying, why aren't you able to stop the boats? But, you just have to look at what is the geography and also the geopolitical of Europe. And it's not something you can do like that, first of all. Second thing is that Europe has always been a balance between generosity. A lot of immigrants have also come to Europe, of course to Australia, and they did pretty well, but also to Europe in the past 30 years. And on the other hand, we need to control our borders. So it's not easy at all to find the right approach to that.
Do you think, can I just interrupt you just for a moment there? You talk about the Stop the Boat singer, of course. I imagine you're referring to Tony Abbott's speech in London, the Thatcher lecture, in which he more or less suggested that Europe should follow the course that he set in train in Australia. Do you think those kind of calls will become more prevalent?
I've heard that from many other people than the previous Prime Minister. But probably, yes, there will be, some people will be tempted by drafting very, simple solutions. I was talking about the National Front. The National Front is just about scapegoats. Everything that goes wrong in France is about is because of immigrants, is because of Europe, is because of Euro. But at the end of the day, they have no program. So we will have to be very careful with that. But it's true that probably among the thousands of refugees, some wolves are hidden among the sheep. And that's why we have, of course, to strengthen the controls that we can organize. But it's pretty difficult, as it was difficult for the French police or intelligence to prevent people from striking, people that were ready to die because 7 out of 8 of these terrorists had decided that they would not survive their attack. And when the police came next to them, they just blew themselves up. So, you know, everything is quite difficult to understand and, of course, to imagine the right reaction. So we have to be very careful about what we say about that.
All right.